All right. Rob, we'll go ahead and start off with the third step prayer.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I am Rob Kay. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I'm going to read the third step prayer, which is on page 63 of your big book. Hope everybody's got your big book handy, a highlighter, a pen, and a piece of paper. It's a facilitated meeting, so there'll be questions at the end of the meeting. The third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
All right, Rob. Thank you very much. Okay, we are now we're going to back up just one paragraph here, Rob. So we're going to go back to page 14 at the very bottom where it says, my friend.
You got it. So page 14, everybody. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Particularly, it was imperative to work with others, as he had worked with me. Faith without works was dead, he said, now appallingly true for the alcoholic. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to just talk about real quick, and we've kind of already covered a few things here, but my friend emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Now, what we're basically saying here, and this is what's important to kind of grasp and have take over, and that is that it's not just when you're working on your alcoholism, it's not just when you're going to a meeting, or if you're a sponsor or a sponsee working with one or the other, that type of thing. It's really a complete change in the way that you live your life, and kind of approaching it as if everything has got a meaning to it. It's you come into it from a pure spiritual aspect, and you meditate in the morning, ask for direction and guidance. You follow that direction and guidance in everything that you do. You review your day that evening, look at all of the interactions that you had with others, and try and improve on that as you go forward. And particularly, and we do emphasize this comes again and again and again, it is imperative to work with others, and that is true to work with other alcoholics. I can't overemphasize enough that working with another alcoholic is certainly an incredible but very rewarding and very strengthening kind of activity for your own sobriety and your own recovery. So that go on to go in through here with regard to if he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. So we're really talking about the seriousness of staying sober, staying recovered, and working constantly on that in such a way that it becomes really kind of just a part of your life. And that's really where you find yourself in a recovered state, is when you wake up, you go a day or 3 or 5, and you realize that all the urges are gone, all of the desire to drink is gone. The idea of drinking isn't even an interest. And at that point, you can really sit back and know that you have really tapped into that inner strength. You can smile about it. I know I'm speaking from experience, and you feel this sense of confidence that kind of comes over you. And I think that's an important point that they want to make in this particular paragraph, is that the more you work, the quicker you're going to recover. The quicker you recover, the better off your life is going to be. And the better your life is, the more you can do this with outside of just working on your alcoholism. Rob?
Yeah, it says here on page 14 that it is imperative to work with others. All through this book, which I talked about last week, was step 12, working with others. It is essential. Okay, he doesn't suggest it, that, it's a good idea. It might help you. No, it is essential. It is imperative that we work with other people. So always keep that in mind. And remember, last week I had mentioned, take a look how many times throughout the book, work with another alcoholic. It works when all other activities fail. When you're at a low point, when you're not feeling good, you're too much into your own head, go help somebody else. Think about other people instead of, dwelling on our own, self. Remember, we were selfish and self-centered. We have to change our thinking 180 degrees in order to change. And that's what it's all about, is thinking about other people. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of their problems. It was fortunate for my old business associates to remain skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. I was not too well at the time and was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. Many times I've gone to my old hospital in despair. On talking to a man there, I would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. It is a design for living that works in rough going.
Yeah, and he's kind of describing some things here that he's suffering from the human condition to a certain extent. He also is, if you look at this, people remained skeptical for a year and a half. I have to admit that for an alcoholic that's in their initial stages of recovery. I know it's kind of that 2-week, time frame. You want people to automatically forgive you. You want things to be great. You want people to recognize that you've recovered or on your way to recovery, and all should be good. But the fact is that you yourself, as an alcoholic, probably came through like a bull in a china cabinet. You had a path of somewhat of what I would call destruction and despair as you were going along. And you've probably gone and relapsed one or more times. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, for somebody to take a year and a half for some people to remain skeptical is really not that far-fetched. In fact, I would tell you that even to this day, my wife, for example, and this is, I've got a couple of years under my belt, and at this point in time, she is still, every once in a while, there's a pang of, concern or just that kind of remembering the past, and all of a sudden there's that doubt that is entered in, and we work through it, but it does happen. The other part of this is that, plagued with waves of self-pity and resentment and stuff. And that's where I kind of get to, is that it's really easy to be at your 3-month or your 6-month or wherever mark you might be, and still having this idea that people should recognize that you are doing this courageous thing. And because they're not, you may find yourself with a bit of resentment and or self-pity. But I also will tell you is that during that time, you're also having those occasional urges to drink. Maybe you see a commercial, maybe you see a show or a movie or something like that, where they have kind of romanticized the idea of drinking. Or maybe you just watch your friends go to a bar and watch a sports event or something to that effect that is, or maybe it's a book club and everybody brings, a bottle of wine and that type of thing. Those are going to happen, and it is going to be periods of time where if you find another alcoholic to talk to, even if you're not necessarily working with them, but if you take the time at those moments where you have this kind of weak moment and find that you can work with somebody else, it will actually get you through that particular low spot. And that's kind of where Bill is making this point here. And it is a design for living that works in rough going. I can't emphasize enough how much better life is when you are actively working with other alcoholics. And the nice thing too is that just like, for example, today, when I finish with this meeting, there's a lightness, there's a brightness, there is this kind of just hey, I'm ready to tackle the day kind of thing. And I can't tell you how much better I feel after doing a day like today. So, Rob?
Yeah. The thing that I love about this is that step 12 again. Many times I've gone to my old hospital in despair. On talking to a man there, I would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. And as you've read, a promise is here. It is a design for living that works in rough going. What Bill is saying, in rough going, go help somebody else. Go help another alcoholic who is struggling. And now I'm going to read the next paragraph, and it's got 8 promises here. See if you can get them all. So let me just let in Daphne. Okay. So we commence to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part of. The joy of living we really have, even under pressure and difficulty. I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. I've seen the most impossible domestic situations righted, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. I've seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their family and communities. Business and professional men have regained their standing. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which is not being overcome among us. In one Western city and its environs, there are 1,000 of us and our families. We meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. At these informal gatherings, one may often see from 50 to 200 persons. We are growing in numbers and power.
Absolutely. And so, and I'm going to let Rob pick out all of the promises here, but I will just say this: it's just a matter of watching and being a part of. Recovery is such a positive experience, and here are just one of many different forms of success that people feel and see and live when they do go through this recovery. I won't talk much on this because it's pretty straightforward in regards to the fact that over a given period of time, you can watch people go from at their lowest spot to some of the best places in their lives, and in some cases, the best places in their lives that they've ever had. Rob?
Okay, so let's go through the promises in this paragraph. The first promise, first line. We commence to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part of. Promise 1. Now, promise 2. The joy of living we really have, even under pressure and difficulty. 3. I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. 4. Have seen the most impossible domestic situations righted. 5. Feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. 6. I have seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their family and communities. 7. Business and professional men have regained their standing. And 8. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. So 8 promises in there. So back on to page 16. And if anybody wasn't able to get all those, just ask me at the end of the meeting and I'll make sure we'll go over them for you. An alcoholic in his cups is an unloving creature. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. One poor chap committed suicide in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it. I suppose some would be shocked at our seemingly worldlessness and levity, but just underneath there is deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. Most of us feel we need look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. Each day, my friend's simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men.
Okay, so I just a couple of points here is that there are people that don't make it. And that is a truth that we have to deal with on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. We find that people come and go, and they try, and others just are not that successful, and it has got too much of a hold on them. They're incapable of finding that inner strength and that higher power, and in some cases they perish. And it's a it's a fact of life, and it's one where we work diligently, and the more diligently you work, the better off things are. But it is one that is requires a lot of vigilance to try to overcome. And that is kind of how Bill finishes out what he has to say here. There's a vast amount of fun about it all, and I suppose some would be shocked at its seeming worldliness and levity. And just underneath there is this deadly earnestness that cannot be said any better, and that is that this is a very serious thing, but we certainly do have fun in life, and we celebrate. It's really something to celebrate, especially when you're no longer in your mom's basement on an old couch and have nothing to your name whatsoever, and things just are bleak, and you're on the brink of pure destruction. So I also want to note that Bill W. Died January 24th of 1971 with 36 years of sobriety. And the other thing is the asterisk that we had here. My book is an older printing of the fourth edition, but currently it's 2019's printing, and they have 120,300 groups worldwide. Rob?
Yeah, the person that committed suicide in Bill's home was Bill Cousins. He killed himself with a gas oven, turned the gas on, and asphyxiated himself. He was selling Bill and Lois's clothes on the street in order to get money for alcohol. You know, these days, we don't normally bring people into our homes. We go to the fellowship, our meetings, and we meet newcomers. That's what meetings are all about. It's where we can meet the newcomer. But in 1930s, Bill brought people into his home. The ends that these people went to in order to get other people sober are incredible. We don't have to do that nowadays. Bill would have to detox people in his home, see them through the DTs, and give sedatives when necessary. We don't have to do that nowadays. We can send people to detox. We can send people to treatment centers. We can do all these things. But the whole idea is that, the fellowship is all about meeting newcomers. It's a place they can come and find the message and find the solution. And remember where the solution is. A lot of times people go to meetings and they're not hearing about the solution, which is a real shame, and they slip through the cracks. So please, when you're at meetings and you see a newcomer, approach them, make them feel welcome, and tell them, what the solution is. And if they are interested, we're willing to take them through it. So that's my 2 cents. Now, the whole chapter right here, Bill did the 12 steps. He had the spiritual experience. He worked with others carrying this message, and remember, Bill didn't succeed with his first few people that he worked with, So remember, the whole idea is that we bring these people through the 12 steps, get them to have their spiritual experience, get them to rely on God, not their sponsor, but to rely on God to get them through things. So now we're going to go into the next chapter. There is a solution. So we're going to be on page 17. There is a solution. Do you want to say something, Leo?
Yeah, I just want to start out and kind of set the stage here just a little bit. We're going to talk about a common problem and a common solution. All right. That's one of the themes that we're kind of talking about here. All of us have a common problem, and because of what we work with in the program of AA, and we're strictly kind of staying with this particular program, we have that common solution. And I also want to say that AA was designed for people that are relapsers. If you are able to control and enjoy your drinking, you can stop and stay stopped without any issues or trouble or anything like that. This is not really the program for you. We're talking about people that need to really find that inner strength and that higher power in order to be able to recover. And the other thing I want to say here is this, and this is important, I think, that goes well beyond just the spiritual experience, and that is getting plenty of rest and really eating right. In other words, good nutrition, and couple that with some, if not a lot of exercise. Fact is that as you stop drinking, as you go through recovery, it is exponentially better when you are getting enough rest and you're actually getting the right kinds of foods and the nutrition that you need, and doing a little bit of exercise. And I say that just as a sidebar. We won't really talk about that any other time than right now, but those are certainly important elements to actually think about and add into what you're trying to do as you actually go through recovery. And the fact is that you're going to feel better anyway. You should, by not drinking, you should wake up, things should be a little bit brighter and a little bit better. And with that, you can get on track. So just wanted to bring that into the forefront just for a brief period here, to say that it's not just the spiritual experience, which is a huge piece of it, and that's why we focus on it so much, but it is about that rest and nutrition and exercise. All right, Rob, there is a solution.
There is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem.
Right. And so really the things that we want to say here, we know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill, and nearly all have recovered. All right. Nearly all have recovered. And this is another point that we want to make. And that is that you actually can recover from alcoholism. And in doing so, you can actually say that you have recovered. I feel like I know I'm an alcoholic. I always will be. If I ever went back to drink, I'm going to have the same problems that I had before, if not worse. But the fact is, I've got the strength and the power that I've been able to tap into to keep myself from doing that, and therefore have essentially recovered from alcoholism. I have solved the drink problem just like the other thousands of men and women before me. Rob?
Yeah, there is a solution. It doesn't say A means one solution. Okay, there might be other things out there, crystals, acupuncture. There's a lot of different treatment centers, etc. But for this book, there is a solution. Now, Bill started writing the book May 10th, 1938. In writing the book is written in the past tense. Okay, and they're going to cover here the problem and the solution. We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We are like passengers of a great liner, the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy and escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us, but that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined.
Yeah, so the fact is, we are coming from all walks of life. And I think that's an important thing here. I think that, we've seen and heard from other organizations that kind of focus on one socioeconomic or demographic kind of area. And in that makes that a little bit more prejudice, if you will. Well, that's not the case here. We take all comers, and no matter where they come from and where they're going, we take them. We obviously don't normally mix. However, I would say that to a person, everybody I've heard and talked to has been able to find this is great. We come from all over the world. We talk, we smile, we laugh, and but otherwise, I would tell you, without Alcoholics Anonymous and this solution, I wouldn't have met any of you. What a great thing that this is, and something that I enjoy immensely as we go along. Not much else to say on my part here, Rob.
And not much more I can add to that, Leo. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree. and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
Yep, it is just this, and that is that, and I won't emphasize it any more than what it already has been. It is a common solution with of the common problem that we all have, and we absolutely can agree on it, and we can actually join in brother and sisterly and harmonious action for this. This is going to be the news and the message that we're going to hear. Rob?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate and the tremendous sigh for every one of us. All 100 people agree that they have found a common solution. This worked for 100 of these people. If it can work for 100 people, it can work for me. If I follow the same path they took, if I do exactly what they did, it'll work for me. We're on page 18, everybody. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe that an illness involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt, but not so with the alcoholic illness. For with it there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives and blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list.
Yeah, there's a couple of messages here. This is an illness. We believe this to be an illness. People will call it a disease. It's not like a disease such as cancer or heart disease, something like that that can be diagnosed with a test or medically treated necessarily with some type of surgery or anything like that. But it is an illness, and it is serious to the point of, in the description of, that it's no other way that you can really describe it, just that it's a sickness that we all suffer from. Now, the difference here is, and this is the message that we're trying to get, is most people that are non-alcoholics, that are in the midst or in the presence of an alcoholic, don't look at that person as having an illness or a disease. They look at them as having this, just bad decisions, poor judgment, and the like. And it causes problems. And they say that here, and this is just a short list of all of the things that can happen with the misunderstanding, resentments, financial ruin, friends that are no longer interested in being a part of you, and they turn and distance themselves from you. Employers that look at you and start thinking in terms of maybe not letting you work and letting you go. And then the families are sometimes the most or the hardest hit by all of this, and they are they're full of fear, sadness, and anger. All of those things make it tough for the alcoholic. It is important, not just for the alcoholic to understand what the problem is and also what the solution is. It's important that others understand it as well. And one of the best gifts you can give an alcoholic is to get the family to understand what's going on and actually start to participate in a patient kind of way, one that is very supportive, and one that will help the alcoholic through some of the rougher times and the rough spots. Not saying that you forgive them right off the bat or anything like that. I'm saying that you understand what they're going through and what's going on, and you support them in their efforts to get sober and recover, which is, like I said, one of the best gifts you can give an alcoholic. Rob?
Thank you, Leo. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss a situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor.
Well, sure. Doctors and psychiatrists, they come across people all the time that have got problems and illnesses and sicknesses and that type of thing. But they also they've also can see through the BS. And that's kind of what I think they're trying to say here, is that it's sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss a situation without reserve. Well, that's partly because they're not talking to another alcoholic, and we'll find out more so as we go along that another alcoholic can actually reach an alcoholic when others can't. They also talk about, strangely enough, the wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable, and they want less and less to do with the alcoholic because they're the ones that have probably seen the worst of the alcoholic, and they don't want to be a part of it. So this is really kind of this thing of informing them so that they will put down their guard, and allow this person to come back. Rob?
Yeah, throughout the emotional appeal, which we've read on in the doctor's opinion on page XXVIII, seldom suffices. You know, people around us who care about us, you know, why don't you quit drinking? You know, you turn into a different person. You know, you would think you would give up alcohol for somebody else, you know, but it doesn't work. You know, we have an illness, and that they finally said in the book, it's an illness that we're suffering from. So now we're going to go into read the next paragraph, and it's in squiggly writing. They paid extra money, okay, for this squiggly writing, so it must be important. So let's pay attention to it. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished.
Little or nothing can be accomplished. And the fact is that there is one alcoholic to another has time and again, over and over, won that those alcoholics over. And this is actually good information for a sponsor. And this understanding of step one completely, and also understanding the allergy and the malady. I also want to say that we're going to be talking about the facts as they are outlined here between now and page 44. So we got quite a bit of information to get out and go through. Rob?
Yeah, remember when Bill talked to Dr. Bob, he was able to get through to Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob originally said that I'll give him 15 minutes. Hey, they ended up talking for over 6 hours. Why? Because Bill could talk to Bob in a language that he understood. He understood the drinking game. He knew the mental twist, you know, how he had no defense against that first drink. Okay. When we go and talk to other alcoholics, we understand each other. Okay. We understand how we can't have no defense against that first drink. How then the allergy kicks in and I can't control the amount I take. You know, doctors, psychiatrists, they don't necessarily understand it just the way we do. So we can gain the entire confidence of another alcoholic where other people can't. Step 12 again, you know, go help another alcoholic. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with the real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again.
Yes. So really what we're basically saying here is just what we described a while ago, is that an alcoholic can reach another alcoholic when others can't. They know the language, as Rob has put it so well. They know the ups and the downs. They've had their own experiences, some similar, some not so similar, but still common. And that is comforting. It is inviting. And the alcoholic that's is being approached is normally very receptive within just a short period of time, because they can say to themselves, this other person that's talking to me gets me. And that's an important factor here. Rob?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, somebody once mentioned that the big book is a repair manual for myself. And I thought, that makes sense. It made sense to me. So I just want to throw that out there. None of us makes a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. All of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work.
Yeah, so what we're basically saying here is that, this isn't necessarily something that we have to do 100% of our time. Obviously, we've got other things that we have in our lives. That could be work, it could be family, it could be other hobbies and endeavors. And so those are important. But what they are saying is, and this is kind of the underlying theme here, is that as we talked about this spiritual life, and that is to live it no matter what you're doing. And it is a good practice to do so. And obviously, some people have more time than others. And so as you have more time, you have more time to give. And that in and of itself, and I know we've got a couple of people here that make it their vocation to be able to work with recovering addicts and alcoholics. So the basic thing here is that it doesn't have to consume you 100% of your time. So, if you're thinking that, you don't have to think that anymore. The time that you do spend is valuable. So no matter whether it's a little bit of time or a lot of time, it's good. And not only that, but to just working with other alcoholics, but living your life in a spiritual manner, no matter what you're doing. Rob?
Yeah, a much more important demonstration of our principle lies before us in our respective homes. This is not something that we take into the fellowship. We go to our meeting for an hour and we are the nice person and everybody thinks that we're wonderful. Then we go home and we treat our wives, husbands, children, pets, badly. This is something that we live. We are living this new lifestyle where we're not selfish and self-centered anymore. We're worried about other people. It's an incredible life. It's changed my life. And the fact that I enjoy the things around me, I appreciate what I have in my life. I used to, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Well, you know what? I might not have that, this or that, but you know what? What I do have is an incredible life that I've come to appreciate and enjoy. I isolated myself for so long from the rest of my family, sitting downstairs, getting drunk every night. Not much of a life. I lost my smile, as my wife used to say. Today I smile all the time. Why? Because I am grateful for the life that I've been given. I am blessed. I might not have, $10 million in the bank, but you know what? I have enough money in my pocket that I can go and get a coffee if I want one. How many people in this world don't have those things and would wish for them? The poor people in Florida that are going through their stuff right now. My heart goes out to them, and all I can do is pray for them and hope that everybody is fine. But this program is something that we live. Okay. We don't just, be a nice person once in a while. We live it. We live the principles of it. Okay. So please keep that in mind. If we were to keep on the way we're going, there's little doubt that much good will result. But the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. How then shall we present that which has been so freely given?
First of all, they're going to answer that last line there, that question. They're going to answer it specifically as we go forward. One of the highlights here is that I want to make is that many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. So think in terms of the how you recovered and all that you've done and are currently doing, and then try to take that to somebody else. And that's what's important here. Many could recover if they have the opportunity we have enjoyed. And that's an important message here. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of unrecovered alcoholics all over the world, and we've barely scratched the surface. But that's one of the things that just makes this program so good, is that we continually find new people, and they find recovery, and they become part of our fellowship, and that's a great thing. Rob?
I love how when there's a question mark in this book, it's not for us to answer. They will answer it for us. You know, I gotta love Bill in the way he writes. We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem.
Yeah, and it's going to be that we have concluded to publish an anonymous volume, which is this book, and it is as we see it, which is based on the first 100 people that recovered, and it's their program. It's not my program, and so the point being is that we want to make sure that you know that it's not you, it's we. It is their program, and it's something that we learn as we go forward. And it is a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem. Anyone can benefit from this. And remember too, and we haven't really gotten there just yet, but of those people that earnestly really try this program, and I'm talking to the ones that really try, not just the people that show up at an AA meeting, but those that really commit to trying, about 50% recover fairly quickly there. Another 25% will recover in due time. And then the rest of the people actually will lessen how much they drink and be able to improve their lives in some manner or fashion. And so there is benefit to people that have just a drinking problem. So it is something that can touch all drinkers regardless. But I'll take it a step further. This is a way or a program that can actually benefit people that are even non-drinkers. Rob?
Yeah, there's hundreds of different programs: Overeaters Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous. They're all using the big book. They change words here and there, but they are using the big book. So the whole idea is to change our thinking 180 degrees. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. 100 people, combined experience and knowledge. Remember, my program brought me here. Their program has me recovered. It's to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book, page XIII. And they're going to do that. Of necessity, there will have to be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. Most of us sense that real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints, and a respect for their opinions or attitudes which make us more useful to others. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on our constant thoughts of others and how we may help meet their needs.
Yeah, and this is kind of just reiterating the fact that you're looking for and trying to live your life in a spiritual manner, and anybody that you touch and come in contact with, you act accordingly. And as an ex-problem drinker, somebody that has recovered, anytime that you have an opportunity to interact with an alcoholic, all the better, mainly for you. But then obviously, if you actually are able to share this program with them, the same experience that you had with this solution, you're going to find that they're going to start to recover as well. And going back to the beginning of this, we're talking about matters of medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. One of the things you're going to see and hear in this book as we go forward is that we don't shy away from the fact that people do in fact need medical care. And if they need it, they should get it. Second, psychiatric assistance is certainly a benefit no matter what. So we obviously want to push that. The social aspect of this, I think, goes without saying. The fact that we have this fellowship is really a grand thing. And religious, we kind of say that this isn't a religious program, and if you want to split hairs, it really isn't. But there are religious undertones that we'll address. Obviously, when we talk about our higher power, in a lot of cases, people will talk about God. But we're not a religion as such, like Catholic Catholicism or Baptist or Judaism and Buddhism. None of those things are going to be the things that we talk about, nor do we address. But I will say that if people from all denominations are welcome, and if there is anybody that actually is prejudiced against that, then that's where the controversy is going to come in. But what I have heard, and this is the hard part, and that is that there is kind of a misnomer, and people get turned off when they hear religion or they hear God. I think if they're able to open their eyes, ears, and their hearts and realize that we're really truly talking about a spiritual experience and not a religious one, I think that we win a lot of people over. So with that, Rob?
And I love this line. And here we go with step 12 again. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. You may already have asked yourself, why is it that all of us became so very ill from drinking? Doubtless, you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do?
Sure. And this is just basically setting the stage. It's asking the question so that they can answer it for us. And the fact is, we now are trying to, there's that peaked interest that we have. And with that, we're going to talk to people that have recovered. We're going to learn from them. We ourselves are going to help educate others as we go forward. And it's interesting. A newcomer coming into this looks around and sees somebody with recovery. And I'm talking about people that have got 6 months of recovery, a year of recovery, 10 years of recovery, or 32 years of recovery. The fact is that piques alcoholics' interest. They want to know how they got there. And it's important for us to share with them freely of how we recovered from this hopeless condition of mind and body. And here's a reminder that it is of the mind and body, and we'll talk more about this as well. And we're talking about the malady and the allergy, and those are some things that we haven't defined just yet, but we will. What do I have to do? Rob?
Yep. It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it alone. Why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? That fellow can't handle his liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine? Lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I should think he'd stop for her sake. The doctor told him that if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again.
Yeah, the ignorance of those that are not afflicted with alcoholism is powerful, and there are many. And these are just a few of the statements and questions that people ask in wonderment as to why a person who is afflicted with alcoholism can't stop drinking. We'll talk more about that with regard to the malady and the allergy and how it is that powerlessness over the first drink, and then once you've started drinking, you can't stop. So we're really into the discussion now about the person that's the non-drinker, that's looking upon a person that is a drinker, and in this case, an alcoholic, and their like I said, their ignorance to this illness that we all have. Rob?
Yeah, I love the fact that we shall tell you what we have done. This is the first 100 people that have recovered. They're going to tell you specifically. It's not we'll tell you approximately how we did it. No, they're going to tell us specifically how they did it. Now, these are commonplace observations on drinkers, which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. we see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours.
Yeah. And so what I want to talk about is these are obviously all of us have heard some variation of something like this. They've been people have come to me specifically and say, why are you drinking? I mean, it is as simple as that. Why are you drinking? You know you can't control it. You know that you get in trouble, et cetera, et cetera. Why can't you stop? Why are you taking that first drink, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's going to be those commonplace observations that we have. It is, like I said, a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. And the more that we can educate them, and certainly my family has come a long way in watching me recover and learning from that. We're going to stop right there, Rob. And we're going to turn this over to Bill for just a few minutes, if you will. Once we get in here, we'll next time we're going to get into the different types of drinkers, and it's going to get even more interesting than it is already. Bill?
Yeah, hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, Leo and Rob. Good job. This is a real important part of the book here, Rob. A lot of real good information here. Where we started on the bottom of page 14 and the top of page 15, Bill's giving us instructions here on how to perfect and enlarge your spiritual life. You want to know how to get more spiritual? You try to help somebody else get spiritual. You do that through work and self-sacrifice for others. That's how we perfect and enlarge our spiritual life. That's step 12, work and self-sacrifice for others. By doing that, that makes us better. That's the point Bill's trying to get across to us here with all of this stuff. And then in the next paragraph, he tells us, he's giving us instructions on how to stay sober after we had a spiritual experience. This is after Bill had his spiritual experience. That was back on the previous page, on the top of page 14, when Bill had his spiritual experience in the town's hospital. Now, it says, I was not too well at the time. I was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment, which sometimes nearly drove me back to drink. So after Bill had his spiritual experience, he was almost driven back to drink again because of self-pity and resentments. So what did he do? He didn't smash the idea himself. He didn't make it go away. He didn't use his willpower. It says, I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. He worked with another alcoholic. We would call them newcomers. AA wasn't started yet, so you didn't have newcomers to AA. He was finding people that needed to get sober. That would be a newcomer to us. And he would work with them and explain to them what he did, and that saved the day. That kept him from drinking. By using what we call step 12, that's what smashes the idea of the urge or the desire to have a drink. Trying to help somebody else not drink helps us not drink. It validates the program for us. And that's what Bill did. He went back to the town's hospital, talked to people that would have been new in sobriety there. And by doing that, it says he would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. So all throughout this book, it's going to keep on telling us over and over and over again, when we work with somebody that's trying to get sober, that's what keeps us sober more than anything else. And right on the bottom of the page, it says, we meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. They realized right in the beginning that they had to reach out to newcomers in order for them to stay sober. That's why a newcomer is so important, because the newcomer keeps the old-timer sober. It's not the other way around. The old-timer doesn't keep the newcomer sober. The newcomer makes it possible for the old-timer to do step 12. No newcomer, no step 12. No step 12, we're all going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Okay, and then we went on to the next chapter. There is a solution, and like Rob pointed out, there is a solution. It doesn't say there's as many different programs and as many different solutions as there are people in the rooms. I heard that stuff in meetings. This book says there is a solution, and A means one. And the solution is to follow this course of action that's laid out in this book. That's our solution. And it talks in here a little bit about the common problem and the common solution. You cannot have a common solution if you don't have a common problem. All of our problem is basically alcohol. We can't stop drinking when we want to, and when we finally do stop, we can't stay stopped. And that's pretty much what he's trying to tell us here. And our solution is to go through the process that's laid out in this book. And on page 18, like was pointed out, the squiggly writing, that's real important stuff there. Basically what he's telling us there is one alcoholic can get through to another alcoholic like no non-alcoholic can. When Dr. Bob tried to get sober, he went to the Oxford group, and he wasn't talking to other alcoholics. He was talking to people that wanted to be saved and go to heaven. So he wasn't on the same wavelength that they were. And when Bill showed up, Bill spoke the alcoholic language to Dr. Bob, and Dr. Bob understood what he was talking about. We can get through to each other like no one else can. Other people might be able to help us a little bit. They could take us to a doctor or a hospital or put us in for treatment or whatever. But if they're not an alcoholic, they don't have the same understanding of what's going on inside of us that another alcoholic does. And that's why we work with each other, and we can get through to each other like nobody else can. That's what this book is trying to explain to us and trying to get across to us here. And he's basically giving us a good information in here on what we're supposed to do and how to get to this solution. And on page 20, it talks about it. It asks a question, what do I have to do? The book's not asking the question. It's saying you may already be asking that question. And then it tells us the purpose of the book is to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. And we means the first 100. In other words, we're supposed to tell newcomers what the first 100 people did to get sober. We're not supposed to tell them what to do, order them around, and try to tell them, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of assignments. The book doesn't say that. The book says we're supposed to tell people what the first 100 did. So if they want it, they can follow the same course they followed, and they can get what they got. And what did they get? They got recovered, and now they're sober. And that's basically what this whole thing is telling us. What we have done, that's in the past tense. Like Leo said, the whole book is written in the past tense. This book is telling us what they did back in 1935 and 1936 and 1937. The book is not ordering me around and telling me what to do. It's telling me if I want to get better, I have to follow the same course of action they did, and then I've got the best chance of getting better. All right, that's all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share, guys.
Thanks so much, Bill.
That was excellent, Bill. I want to let everybody know that Bill has his own Big Book study, and it's on Fridays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. I'd have to look, I guess. That's about 4, I think, 4 in the afternoon, UK time.
UK time, yes.
Yep. So that was pretty quick on my feet there. Anyway, so let's go ahead and close out with the Serenity Prayer, Rob, and then we'll open up for some.
Sounds great. The Serenity Prayer, everybody. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks, Rob.